ladies, we're about to start. We have gone live too on Facebook. Just want to let you know we have also on live on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Rhonda Rogers. I am the founder and president of Rhonda's Promise. And tonight is one of our programs that we have for mental health and awareness services. It's called our Hey Sisters program. And our speaker tonight is Miss Katie Stafford. Katie has, this is her second time speaking with our Hey Sisters group. We want to welcome you back. With the holiday season fastly approaching, I had reached out to Katie expressing myself and grief because I most recently lost my mother as well as my father that raised me within the last couple of years. And I thought it was a good time to have this conversation about grief, grace, and growth. And so please join me in welcoming our speaker, welcoming her back. She's now part of the Hey Sister family. So let's give her a big round of welcome to Miss Katie. Welcome, you
Hey,
have the floor.
sister. Thank you, thank you, thank you for welcoming me into this space. I'm actually really excited to be here and to have this conversation with you all. I feel like we don't talk about grief enough. If I'm going to be quite honest, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, I feel like we don't talk about grief enough. And so when Miss Rhonda asked, I immediately said yes, because this is a very important topic. I want you guys to keep in mind that while we are doing this, you might experience some strong emotions, and that's okay. If you do, I want you to reach out to your support system. And if you need help finding a professional, I'm here and happy to help you get connected with someone, even if it's not me, because I truly believe that you don't have to carry these things alone. Now this is an interactive, every presentation I do is interactive, but this is an interactive space. So, but participation is completely voluntary. So you engage at your comfort level, and that can be with a chat or note taking or just silent reflection. A little bit about me. This is this is me. In a nutshell, I am a licensed mental health practitioner and social work supervisor who enjoys exploring and trying new things and is definitely a silly goose. And I love with intention. Fun fact, not everybody knows this, but I will be starting my doctoral program in January. So I'm super excited about that. Sometimes I question, but I'm excited to see where God is leading me with that. The holidays are often painted as a magical, joyful time, but for a lot of us, it's a season that brings up grief, stress, pressure, or just plain exhaustion. Maybe you're missing someone that you love. Maybe your family dynamics are challenging, or maybe you're just tired of trying to carry it all. But either way, we're going to honor whatever emotions come in this space. We're going to learn how to protect our peace and open ourselves up to the possibility of experiencing joy without limits. We are creating a space for grief, peace, and alignment, which means that in this space, you can show up however you are, no performance necessary. Okay, so I want to invite you into a short reflection to go ahead and set the mood. And you can close your eyes if you're comfortable. If you are driving, please do not close your eyes. I do not want to be liable. Or you can soften your gaze. And I want you to take a slow, deep breath in and exhale. And one more in and one more exhale. All right, so I want you to think back to the holidays when you were growing up and just notice what memories come up for you. Maybe it's the smell of food cooking, the sound of laughter. Maybe it's tension or even sadness. There is no right answer. There's no wrong answer. We are just noticing what comes up. I want you to picture the room, the people, the energy. What are some things that you see? What are some of the sounds that you might hear? Do you have any visceral reactions? Do you feel anything in your body as you sit with these memories? And then holding that image, I want you to gently place one hand on your heart, take a take a breath, and simply say to yourself, this memory shaped me, but it does not have to define me. And when you're ready, you can take another breath in. And then if your eyes are closed, you can slowly open your eyes or bring your focus back to the screen. And so this is one of those times that you can share in the chat the first thing that popped into your mind during this activity. If it was a food, a smell, a sound, a physical sensation, just go ahead and share the first thing that popped up for you. For me, it's always about the energy. It's the joy that I felt at, our church's annual Christmas pageant, being excited to sing the songs and recite speeches. I, think of the ruffles on my socks, feeling light while decorating the Christmas tree with my cousins. I can feel the warmth that I felt sitting on the couch reading these huge, ugly green Christmas books with my mom. But I also remember the numbness I felt my very first Christmas without my sister, who transitioned early in December 2007, and how things in our family dynamic changed after that point. And so, with this exercise, it just shows how the holidays can hold both joy and pain at the same time, which makes the season that much more complicated. So, I'm gonna see if am I able to see, are you guys able to see responses?
Yes, I'm putting things in the chat and I'm able to see it. Can others, you can speak. I was just getting ready to say to raise your hand when you want to come off of mute to say a comment. Welcome to.
Okay. All right. If anybody wants to share, you don't have to be shy, but it is open. Okay. All right. So, like I said, this just lets us know this is why this just shows us that, the holidays can be hard because just like there are moments of joy, there are also moments of grief. And so the holidays tend to highlight what's been lost, whether it's the absence of a loved one, changes in family traditions, or strained relationships, or even feeling disconnected from who you used to be. There's also this pressure to be joyful or grateful, which only adds another layer of stress. Family means well and friends mean well, but they'll tell us to put on a brave face and attend gatherings and buy gifts and to fake it until we make it, even though our hearts are heavy. And that disconnect between what you feel and what others expect can lead you to experiencing a deep loneliness, guilt, resentment, or sometimes a combination of all three. And it's not just emotional, because of the mind, body, and spirit connection. Grief affects us to our very core and can make it hard for us to rest, focus, and feel grounded. And so when these emotions meet, the sensory overload of the holiday music and the smells and the empty chair, it becomes overwhelming. For me personally, the holidays were the worst. I lost my sister just before Christmas. And then within 18 months, I lost my mother, my great grandmother, and my grandfather. People who were regular parts of my life in my childhood, all before the age of 21. And so that part of my life was filled with grief. And then on top of that was family conflict, which made a season that was supposed to bring joy feel heavy and hollow. And so for a long time, I avoided the holidays. I want to say up until maybe 6 years ago, I avoided the holidays. I would work, I would volunteer to work to avoid holiday celebrations because I didn't want to be reminded of everything I'd lost. The worst part about it is my mood would dip and I wouldn't even notice it. And then people would think I was being flaky or standoffish. But what I didn't know and wasn't able to communicate to others was that I was avoiding celebratory events because it was triggering for me. And so, like I said, it wasn't until later that I learned that I was experiencing, I wasn't just experiencing sadness. I was entrenched in grief, which is, switching out its wig and showing up in a new form every year. Some years it was loud, some years it was heavy, other years it was quiet, but it was still showing up. And no matter how it shows up, grief is your body's way of saying something sacred has changed. And so we tend to carry a lot of shame about not being festive, but we have to learn how to meet ourselves where we are and not where other people think, or not where others think we should be, and to be okay with having to say no or disappoint folks when we aren't feeling quite our best. So, before we go any further, I do want to clarify what grief is, because a lot of times we think of grief, we think of death. And while death is a huge part of it, grief isn't just about losing someone physically, it's about losing anything that's meaningful to us. And this can be felt in the sadness that comes from change, maybe moving to a new city, disconnection, or unmet expectations that come from things such as a broken relationship, loss of health, a career shift, or even a change in the version of life you thought you'd have by now. Um, this this sadness can also be found in transitions that other people typically celebrate. Like I said earlier, moving to a new city or even becoming a parent. Some people think that when you become a parent, you're just naturally excited, but there's an element of grief to that, as you adjust to a life that you didn't really know about before you had a child. There's also grief that comes with retirement, because it still means saying goodbye to what was or what we thought would be. And so, what makes it particularly tricky is that it's not always obvious. Is what my former therapist used to say is insidious or sneaky. It can hide behind fatigue, irritability, anger, forgetfulness, or overworking. And so, I invite you all. Again, this is another opportunity to share if you are interested. I invite you all to reflect on and feel free to share what kind of loss might be showing up for you in this season, as well as some of the ways that grief has shown up for you either now or in the past.
I know Kiera put a comment in the chat. Do you want to share, Kiera, or give us a synopsis?
Okay, thank you, Miss Rhonda. Yeah, this is what I experienced like in the last few years. Like I wrote in the last 3 years. That was the last time that I traveled 1,000 plus miles like out of state, out of Florida. Um, to hang out or at least be with family. Like given the um the festivities around my younger brother's last college like football games in Connecticut. He went to Yale University. So yeah, we all came together, like my maternal family, for Thanksgiving. And but last year, for Christmas, my paternal family, my uncle, he came by from yeah, Miami-Dade, yeah, Broward County. So I mean, maybe that's one way to like fill that void of grief, if you will, like speaking of the subject at hand about like why the holidays are hard, as Miss Katie was showing in her last slide. Yeah, and
Thank
also to add on, we turn to like other avenues to fill the void of loss.
you.
Like in the examples that she said earlier about like a change of like city, or yeah, generally like relocation, or changing family status, like having children, like doesn't matter if it's birth, adoption, foster care, whatever it is that you're not used to, or you're trying to uh adjust to a different lifestyle, or even just like a different state of mind.
Yeah, that's it. Is Sierra?
Oh, my first name you're asking?
It's Sierra?
No.
No? Can you pronounce it for me? I'm sorry.
Yeah, my first name is pronounced Kiera.
Kiera.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Kiera. Thank you for sharing. But you're absolutely right. You're switching your mindset. And again, it's not something that you were preparing for. And so there's a period of adjustment. And anytime we have a period of adjustment, there are bound to be some feelings that accompany that. And then, like you said, with all of those different transitions and changes. Thank you so much for sharing that. So, I'm just sharing here some of the things that we've heard about grief. And then a couple of these slides have affirmations on the top as well that you're more than welcome to copy down. But some of the things that we've heard have been unhelpful and they make it even more difficult to navigate the holiday season. And, if you have some others that you heard, you're more than welcome to drop those as well. My least favorite amongst these is grief has an expiration date. As the typo is supposed to say has an expiration date. But that's my least favorite one. Grief has an expiration date. Grief does not run on a calendar. You don't just get over it after a certain time. You just learn how to carry it differently. I grieve my mother differently than today than I did when she first passed, but it's still grief. Another one, I should be stronger than this by now. Strength does not mean suppressing your emotions. Strength isn't the absence of pain, it's the courage to face it and allow yourself to feel. Allowing yourself to feel makes you resilient. Um, Here was the one that I lived by, right? Avoiding the holidays would make it easier, right? So avoiding the holidays does not make it easier. It gives you a temporary relief, but it just increases the pain in the long run because the feelings are still there. You cannot outrun yourself no matter how hard you try. And it's okay to change traditions, but when you do it with intentionality and compassion. So, we're going to talk about finding some ways to navigate these challenging emotions so that the holidays don't become something that we just have to get through, because grief does not mean that we stop living. You can do other things to save your peace. Yeah. Let's see. So yeah, just because you have grief, like I said, does not mean that we stop living. So we're going to look at some ways to find peace, find rest, and also set boundaries and experience some joy. So, the first step is finding peace in grief. Affirmation 2, protecting your peace honors you and God. And when we talk about peace, we're not talking about it in the context of something that has to be earned or worked towards. Peace is a state of being. It's not only when you stopped crying or moved on that you can be at peace. It's about learning to sit with your emotions that you are experiencing without judging yourself for experiencing them. So, allowing yourself to feel sadness and then still find moments of calm or joy without guilt. The first step to doing that is to name what hurts. You can't heal what you don't acknowledge. And sometimes we try to avoid the pain with statements like, oh, I'm fine, I'm okay, don't worry about me, right? Because we think that if we'll face it, then it will swallow us whole. But by naming what hurts, it gives it boundaries and reminds our body and our minds that we're in charge of the healing process. So, with this, you might say, this year reminds me of blank who's not here, or I miss the way that things used to be. That way you give it a shape, you give it a form, you give it somewhere to go. The next step is to honor honor your memories. Remembering and not running from the memories, lighting candles, cooking the person's favorite dish, or playing the one song that always made them smile, telling their story, using their name. That is something that my sister reminds me to do often, is saying my sister's name, saying Thomasina, or saying Deborah, saying my mother's name, honoring their memory by talking about who they are. Tell their story. Grief is just love looking for somewhere to go. And so when you honor their memory, you give that love a place to rest. You can protect your peace by setting limits. You are allowed to say no to gatherings, to traditions, or to people who drain you. This does not make you selfish. It makes you very wise. So say no. If you can't go, you just can't go. And I'll give you some examples of boundary setting statements a little bit later. And there are also some boundary setting statements in the ebook that accompanied your registration, that came with your registration. You can still love your family and choose what your heart can handle this year. And boundaries are bridges that connect you to your peace. Okay. Lean on community. We were meant to be in community, and therefore we can heal in community. Grief can sometimes trick us into isolation and make us feel like nobody understands. But just because others may not understand doesn't mean that you have to carry this by yourself. Having the right community isn't about fixing it, it's about holding it with you. And then, most importantly, ground yourself spiritually. Pray, journal, worship, breathe, sit in silence. Whatever brings you closer to God and back to yourself, that's your grounding place. Peace isn't found in doing more, it's found in being still. It's something that we make room for. So just take some time and consider, what would peace look like for you in this holiday season. Um, also consider what small boundaries or rituals could help you make room for it. When you give yourself permission to name what hurts, honor that person, and protect your peace, um, life may not look the same, but you're at least giving yourself the opportunity to rebuild. Um, so, so here's one of my favorite things to do with people is teach them how to set boundaries. It's also one of the most complicated things that we can do, especially with our family. So for this holiday season, I want us to get very clear about our boundaries when it comes to family. The holidays have a way of bringing us together, but not always in a peaceful way. And so sometimes this is because of the expectations, sometimes spoken and sometimes not, or it's because of the pressure to show up for things to not hurt someone's feelings, or it's because of the pressure to spend money that we don't have, or smile through conversations that we don't want to have. Um, when we don't set boundaries, we risk losing our peace and sometimes even the progress that we may have started to make in our healing journey. So it's important to know that with boundaries, it's not about pushing people away. It's just about protecting your energy so that when you show up whole. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed your comment. I'm gonna come back to it, okay? Yeah, when you are setting boundaries, you are giving yourself the opportunity to show up whole. And if we're being honest, right, our boundaries, like I said, it's most difficult when it comes to family because they know you best. Um, and again, it just makes it harder to set them in the first place. So I'm just gonna give you some examples of common barriers, as you can see on the screen. The first one is guilt. It's typically the biggest boundary blocker. And it's the idea that you're letting someone down or you're being selfish. But the presence of guilt doesn't always mean that you're doing something wrong. Sometimes it just means that you're doing something different. I actually just had a conversation with a client about guilt earlier today, when I had to explain that guilt and discomfort physiologically feel exactly the same. The difference between the two is how you think about it. So if you think, oh, I've done something wrong, then you're going to experience guilt. But if you think, I'm doing something out of the ordinary, or I'm doing something that I'm not used to, then it just becomes discomfort. So, if you've been used to saying yes in situations with your family, no is naturally just going to feel uncomfortable. So, it's not necessarily guilt telling you that you're wrong, it's your nervous system telling you that you're learning how to do something new. So, after guilt is the fear of disappointing others. And that's because many of us were taught that love means keeping other people happy. That's your family, even at your expense. So the moment that we imagine someone being disappointed, it can feel like possible rejection or failure. But you are not responsible for how other people feel about your boundaries. It's like playing catch. You're only responsible for putting it out there. You're not responsible for catching the ball. If the other person decides to stand directly under the ball and get hit in the face with the ball, then, unfortunately, that was what they decided to do with the ball. So, um, your only responsibility is for being kind, honest, and clear. And honestly, disappointment is just someone's way of adjusting to the new version of you that values their peace. Um, the next one on the list is family roles, and family roles is powerful because these have been rehearsed over time. So if you've always been the one who does the thing, then it's like the family dynamic almost expects it from you. So when you choose not to do it and you break that pattern, then you're signaling to yourself and to others that you're not going to sacrifice yourself in order to keep things intact. And then last, but certainly not least, is conflict avoidance. I mean, most of us, I would assume, don't like conflict, but we want things to stay pretty peaceful. So we'll bite our tongue or we'll overextend ourselves. But in avoiding conflict, we create inner chaos. And like I said, you can't run from yourself. And so we'll say we're protecting peace, but what we're really doing is battling ourselves on the inside because we weren't honest. And so now we have this quiet resentment that builds up and eventually bursts. So as you can see, setting boundaries helps to keep silent fights from happening inside of us. Like I said, you can't run from yourself. The goal isn't to avoid tension, it's just to manage it in a way that it does not cost you your sanity and honors your limits so that you can show up to the things that you want to show up to the things you want to show up to whole. And some people may not like it, and that's okay. That discomfort belongs to them, not to you. So, it's okay to love your family and love yourself enough to know your limits. So I'm going to go to the chat real quick because I did miss a couple of things. Kiera said, leaning on community is an example of a form of turning to or looking for an alternative avenue to fill the void of not having your close family or friends or work staff from a previous employer. It wasn't traditional for me in childhood or in adulthood to honor the memory of those who died 1 or 20 years ago with a balloon. Nobody I know has set up anything to honor those on their birthday or death date since they died. Okay. I mean, we can always set up traditions as well for ourselves. And you're right. Like when we grow up and certain things aren't the norm, we just kind of keep going. But at a certain point, we are allowed to create these things for ourselves. And then family knows us best, but mainly our parents and siblings. The question here is, how do you handle family members like aunts, uncles, cousins, grandparents who wish they contributed and without being harsh? Okay, so the extended are not overbearing or overstepping without being harsh. So Kiara, would you mind explaining that one a little bit more?
I mean, do you know what it's like or have experience? Yeah, not just directed to you, Katie, but maybe other ladies on here, whether childhood or adulthood too, to like have like at least one or two aunties, uncles, or whoever it is on one or both sides to like have like 2 hour, 3 hour long conversations on the phone or maybe in person, but mainly on the phone, and they want to um like give you ideas or give you some kind of advice, but you don't really act on it because you can't like really make sense of it and you don't see it that way. And they call themselves like their immediate, I mean, our immediate family in addition to our parents and siblings, but um, it just seems like they have a different version of that because I know about the proverb as I wrote, it takes a village to raise a child. And that's what comes to like my questions that I wrote, like how do they like coincide? Like setting boundaries like for ourselves and or even with our family for the most part. And I mean, no matter how they react to them, I mean, because they didn't like our grandparents, like we're not around them, like we don't live like in close proximity to the neighbors like I did. Where I'm from, like being in close proximity to an auntie, going to her apartment, yeah, sometimes when I was a little kid up until I came of age in Florida. So of course everybody, or most people, they have family everywhere that they don't really know who to turn to, like for like different events in your life. Like I was in jazz dancing, cheerleading, taekwondo, um, yeah, those activities in my childhood. And of course I did have family, um, yeah, come down, or at least I'm from Broward County on my dad's side, coming to like see my dance recitals. And but they didn't pay for any of my taekwondo. Yeah, I did that. My taekwondo uniform, cheerleading uniforms that I did participated in cheerleading. They didn't contribute to um yeah, my um yeah, gymnastics. Yeah, they didn't contribute like put some money into that, like sign me up. So that's mainly mom and dad doing that.
Okay. So it sounds like what you're saying is how do you respond to family who weren't your core people in a way that is respectful. And the answer to that is you just respond genuinely with the heart. Like you don't have to hold yourself hostage just because somebody is related to you. And or you don't have to allow yourself to be held hostage. I apologize. You don't have to allow yourself to be held hostage um by a relationship just because of relationship. You can always just say, you know what, I appreciate the feedback, and then in the call. And if they're offended, they're offended. It's okay. I like when I talk about boundaries, a lot of times I use the example of taking a road that we typically use to go somewhere to like our favorite store. And
Mhm.
one day there's a barricade on the road, you can't go that way. You're naturally going to be upset, but you will figure it out. And that's
Yes, just like, yeah,
boundaries.
just like if any of y'all experience too, like borrowing or asking for money like from family members, and you got to think like, of course this is, I think your session, or at least this piece, like deciding when enough is enough and put your foot down.
Mhm.
Yeah, you have your head screwed tight up on your body, standing 10 toes down and having your backbone straight as women. Yeah, what empowering words I got.
Yeah. It's all good. Listen, so I have a whole section that I do on this in this workshop that I'm doing that I'm starting next month. So if you are interested, I do go into depth on this because I think it's really important that we learn how to set boundaries, especially when it comes to family. So I would love to see you there. But yeah, you really do just have to say what you need to say in love and just kind of leave it there. But yeah, that's my spiel on boundaries. Now, with the workbook that you all received, there is a page in there that has examples of boundaries that you can set with family during this season. Here's a couple of examples that you can go back to if you want to capture a picture of this slide, if you don't have access to the workbook. But whether it's saying no to a gathering, limiting your time, or even saying no to gift exchanges, your no does not have to be long or defensive, just clear. They don't have to be essays. Like my sister likes to say regularly, no is a complete sentence, no period, right? So, I appreciate your concern, but I'm not ready to talk about that right now. Or God is teaching me to slow down, so I'm being intentional about where I'm putting my time if you need to not go somewhere. And if you need to give yourself time to consider if you do want to say no, you can always say, you know, give me some time to think about it and I'll get back to you. And then you can double back with the no later. So it doesn't always have to be in the moment. You can take your time and consider and then come back to it.
Yeah, I mean, do you think that your family, like your parents, are or have not like done enough to set boundaries with their siblings, like who are your aunties and uncle or whoever it is, your extended family, and you've got to take matters in your own hands as long as you're not harsh, as I stated earlier?
Yeah, so that's the thing. Boundaries are for you. Like we once you become your own person, and even as children, I think it's important for us to remember, even as children, we are allowed to set our own boundaries. Children are allowed to tell people, no, don't touch me, right? You are allowed to tell people, I don't want to talk about that, regardless of their relationship to you. It's not always up to your parents. Sometimes
Yeah,
you.
you're not going to succumb to any peer pressure or. Mhm.
I mean, nobody's perfect. Of course, there are times where, someone will ask you to do something, but I mean, it's up to you. It's really, when it comes to
Mhm.
boundaries, it's really up to you. Because at the end of the day, you're the one that's going to have to live with how you feel.
Or even how you respond or not respond to a question. Like, do you like freeze up or hesitate or kind of like beat around the bush on purpose? Like if the answer is not direct, like, in conversation.
So are you asking how to not do those things? Or are you asking me if I do those things?
Maybe my question really is, yeah, I do have like, yeah, autism, and of course, like we have family that are wanting to be like good advocates for us, no
Okay.
matter what our abilities or capabilities are. Yeah, but if they are doing something that is not to your liking or you're not comfortable with, like you don't feel safe. I mean, they're supposed to be our safe havens, of
Mhm.
course, but then they feel some kind of way, and what do you do about that if they think that they may be doing something wrong with us?
Okay. So then that would be more about their response and managing our emotions and our reactions to their response. But like I said, I can't go into it too much today, but that is something that I would advise that you work with someone to help you build your confidence on boundary setting. That is work that you
Mhm,
have to work with someone to do. Um,
mhm.
that's not a skill that you're gonna grasp like today. I've been working with people for a while and we're still working on that because it's something that takes time. So it just comes with time, but you'd have to work with someone in order to strengthen your confidence in that area. So
And that's what I was gonna say. Look in the chat. We're getting some great feedback as well. So she can look there and we're gonna let you move on because we only have a few more minutes. We end at 7:30.
okay.
But the young lady in the chat is giving some great nuggets. So take a few minutes and look there. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, so moving on. So now we're going to talk a little bit about finding rest, right? So when we start setting boundaries and prioritizing ourselves, Guilt tends to creep back in, and we start thinking that we're not doing enough or we're forgetting something, which then reinforces the idea that rest has to be earned and that slowing down means that you're unproductive or falling behind. But what we have to understand is that even God rested. So if the creator of the universe can take a break, then obviously there's room for us to do the same. And so this season tends to demand so much of us. And if we're not careful, we can lose ourselves in trying to keep up with everything. So, in order to reset this pattern, we are going to go with affirmation 4, which is slowing down is sacred. Every time you feel yourself rushing, I want you to remember that. Slowing down does not mean you're falling behind, it means you're falling into your natural rhythm. I am also in the workbook is what I call a holiday rest menu. And you can complete that on your own time so that you'll have some strategies that you can go to when you're feeling overwhelmed, anxious, or drained. And these can be small, simple, doable tasks, something as simple as eating your lunch, right? Because sometimes we like to work through lunch. This is like sitting down, blocking off your calendar, putting your phone down, watching the clouds, eating your lunch, right? So it doesn't mean you have to take off a whole day unless you want to. It could just mean slowing down, no distractions for like 10, 15 minutes, no social media, no TV, no conversation. Something as simple as, like we said before, saying no. Or the thing I encourage my clients to do, but they all just kind of roll their eyes at me and sit in silence. So just sit there in quiet contemplation or to touch grass. Eyes closed or open without thinking about a to-do list. Just center yourself and see how you feel and how you're really doing. If you want something more than just a restful appetizer, then you can choose something that's a little bit more engaged. But again, when you make these choices, make sure that they are doable and that you would be able to easily replicate them while once the full holiday bustle starts to kick in. Each one of these things, no matter how small, is an act of resistance. So choosing to rest while the world continues to glorify hustle is revolutionary. So again, you can always take a screenshot of this, or like I said, if you have the workbook, it is in there as well. The last one. So now originally I titled this section Joy, I think it was Joy Without Guilt. But I've since changed it to Joy Without Limits because guilt isn't the only thing that steals our joy during the holiday season. And we need to be prepared for every attack that comes after us when we shift to find these moments of rest and peace, especially when we're grieving any type of loss. Grief sometimes tells us that smiling means we moved on too quickly, or that enjoying something dishonors the person that we've lost. But joy doesn't erase grief, and grief doesn't cancel joy. Joy and grief are more like dance partners, they move together. Sometimes one might take the lead, but they both belong. And so joy can also be seen as a form of honoring the lives of those who helped you to become who you are, whether they're here physically or in spirit. And so our last practice today is going to be about making space for joy. And so if you have a piece of paper handy, I want you to write down 5 small joys that you can allow yourself to experience this season without guilt. Now, these joys don't have to be big things, they can be small. Again, touching grass, I know it sounds funny, but I love to touch grass. I like to lay a blanket out on the grass and just lay there in the sunlight and just bask. So that's one of my things, just laying out, watching my favorite movie, even though I've seen it almost every day. I'm gonna watch it because it brings me joy. Baking cookies. I love to bake cookies. A little bit too much, but I'm gonna bake some cookies because it brings me joy. And then also things like dancing in the kitchen to your favorite songs. It brings you joy. say yes to rest without apologizing. It brings me joy. It brings me so much joy to take a nap in the middle of the day. It pleases me. Simple joys, things that make your heart feel a little bit lighter. And each time you do one of these activities, I want you to realize that you're making a small declaration. You are saying, I am still here and my joy matters too. So, like I said, baking, cooking, things that we would do together when I was younger. I used to love when my aunt would make her cakes. We would all be in the kitchen together, me and my cousins, waiting for her to finish that bowl so we could go to town on that bowl and all those mixing utensils. That was our jam. So, um, like I said, now I just like doing it. Um, so, each of these, to continue, each of these small joys will expand your capacity to hold both love and loss at the same time. And that's really what this space is all about. Learning how to breathe during the holidays with honesty and grace. So we have named what hurts, practice finding peace in our grief, talked about setting boundaries with family, and even reminded ourselves that slowing down is sacred. And now we spent some time reclaiming joy as something God still wants us to experience. So, grief doesn't take PTO, but neither does grace. It is found in every moment, every deep breath, every boundary, and every small joy. And so, as our last little thing to close us out, I want to invite you to take a deep breath and gently whisper to yourself. Oh, wait, go back. Ah, I am allowed to feel peace. I am allowed to feel joy. And I am allowed to heal. Whew. You can hold this space. You can hold space for all of this and still honor people and traditions and opportunities that you miss. And so I'm also including some resources here at the end of my presentation for anyone who has a loved one who may need support, or if you want to, you can include them in your own personal mental health toolkit. If you found something meaningful in this session and we want to keep doing this work, I am inviting you to join me for the full 4-week group. We'll meet weekly to go deeper into each of these themes we touched on today, in a smaller, more intimate setting. And it is offered online. And as a thank you, in the workbook that you were provided, there is a promo code that will take down the price of the full series. So you can consider this as your invitation back into yourself this season. I have also, like I said, any resources for anybody who needs them. I appreciate so much your participation. Like I said before, it's so important that we recognize the profound grief, the profound impact that these challenges can have on our community. And so I am really grateful for Rhonda and Rhonda's promise for continuing to foster these open conversations about mental health so that we can create a more compassionate and understanding community. And then here's my contact information. So if anyone has any questions, you are welcome to reach out to me at any time.
Thank you. Thank you. This was wonderful. It raised a lot of things enough, and I wrote my little small things down as well as sharing them in the chat. I do want to thank everyone that came on tonight. I know we all have very busy lives, but we have to have some self-reflect sometime around our grief, especially leading into the holiday season, which is right around the corner. I do want to take a few minutes to thank Healthier Boynton Beach. Thanks to their mini grant, I've been able to put on this program and do these things for the Hey Sisters program. So thank you to Healthier Boynton Beach for being one of our sponsors. Lastly, does anyone else have anything they would like to share before we release Miss Katie and everyone? And thank you to the folks that are watching on Facebook. Thank you. Keep the chat going.
Yeah, I mean, I enjoyed like this informative session, and I do intend to yeah, attend like more of these, like, and even Miss Rhonda, you said yeah, the Hey Sisters, yeah, this has to do with like mental health, and I love that you're the Jill of all trades, but of course, like I'm setting boundaries, which I know you did go through something medical recently, so I'm
That's
happy that
right.
you're doing well.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that so much.
Yeah, so yeah, we all of course got to be careful with what we take, what we have in our lives, or what we bring in our lives, or people in our lives.
That's right. All right. Well, good night, ladies, and thank
Yes,
you.
happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Good
See you
night.
soon.
Mhm.
Hey, ladies, we're about to start. We have gone live too on Facebook. Just want to let you know we have also on live on Facebook. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Rhonda Rogers. I am the founder and president of Rhonda's Promise. And tonight is one of our programs that we have for mental health and awareness services. It's called our Hey Sisters program. And our speaker tonight is Miss Katie Stafford. Katie has, this is her second time speaking with our Hey Sisters group. We want to welcome you back. With the holiday season fastly approaching, I had reached out to Katie expressing myself and grief because I most recently lost my mother as well as my father that raised me within the last couple of years. And I thought it was a good time to have this conversation about grief, grace, and growth. And so please join me in welcoming our speaker, welcoming her back. She's now part of the Hey Sister family. So let's give her a big round of welcome to Miss Katie. Welcome. You
Thanks,
have the floor.
Mister.
Thank you, thank you, thank you for welcoming me into this space. I'm actually really excited to be here and to have this conversation with you all. I feel like we don't talk about grief enough. If I'm going to be quite honest, I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Yeah, I feel like we don't talk about grief enough. And so when Miss Rhonda asked, I immediately said yes, because this is a very important topic. I want you guys to keep in mind that while we are doing this, you might experience some strong emotions, and that's okay. If you do, I want you to reach out to your support system. And if you need help finding a professional, I'm here and happy to help you get connected with someone, even if it's not me, because I truly believe that you don't have to carry these things alone. Now this is an interactive, every presentation I do is interactive, but this is an interactive space. So, but participation is completely voluntary. So you engage at your comfort level, and that can be with a chat or note taking or just silent reflection. A little bit about me. This is this is me. In a nutshell, I am a licensed mental health practitioner and social work supervisor who enjoys exploring and trying new things and is definitely a silly goose. And I love with intention. Fun fact, not everybody knows this, but I will be starting my doctoral program in January. So I'm super excited about that. Sometimes I question, but I'm excited to see where God is leading me with that. Um, the holidays are often painted as a magical, joyful time, but for a lot of us, it's a season that brings up grief, stress, pressure, or just plain exhaustion. Maybe you're missing someone that you love. Maybe your family dynamics are challenging, or maybe you're just tired of trying to carry it all. But either way, we're going to honor whatever emotions come in this space. We're going to learn how to protect our peace and open ourselves up to the possibility of experiencing joy without limits. We are creating a space for grief, peace, and alignment, which means that in this space, you can show up however you are, no performance necessary. Okay, so I want to invite you into a short reflection to go ahead and set the mood. And you can close your eyes if you're comfortable. If you are driving, please do not close your eyes. I do not want to be liable. Or you can soften your gaze. And I want you to take a slow, deep breath in and exhale. And one more in and one more exhale. All right, so I want you to think back to the holidays when you were growing up and just notice what memories come up for you. Maybe it's the smell of food cooking, the sound of laughter. Maybe it's tension or even sadness. There is no right answer. There's no wrong answer. We are just noticing what comes up.